How close are we to a Gattaca reality? Hi, my name is Ryan Flynn. I am a former Bloomberg biotech reporter and current healthcare communications consultant. I still do a lot of writing too. And today's topic is a little bit off than my usual focus on AI and healthcare, but it's somewhat related. And it comes from actually my teenage son. We've been watching a bunch of 90s movies, and I suggested Gattaca. I remember watching it and being really interested by it at the time it came out, and I think in 1997. And it proposed a lot of different ways that society might change once we have genetic engineering, which we are currently doing now in different ways. So he suggested that I should do a video on it, and here I am. Also, shout out to my dad, who told me in its typical fashion that I won't be respected unless I wear a collared shirt. So, Dad, here you go, collared shirt. Now people can take me seriously, right? Great. All right. So the movie came out in '97, and it takes place in a future where society is basically divided into different classes based on their genetic makeup. And parents at an early age, or parents who want to conceive, can edit out traits from depression, alcoholism, anxiety, and also kind of pick the features they want in their kid, from height and obesity, weight. Basically you can genetically engineer a perfect child. And the main character, Vincent, is conceived the natural way, and he's just a regular person. And in this society, because everyone is being born without kind of genetic shortcomings, they for the good jobs, basically you have to have good genes to apply. This we're driven home at one point for Vincent when he uses somebody else's DNA through an elaborate scheme to get a job at a company, a space travel company. And he goes in for the interview. They do a quick fingerprint prick, and they uses someone else's blood, and it comes up he's like this perfect genetic specimen. And the guy goes, "Oh, you have the job." And he's like, "What about the interview?" And he's like, "That was the interview." So it's a kind of a scary um, development for society, but it's a topic that's been discussed for a long time. And actually, when I was in college in the late '90s, Dolly the sheep was cloned, and I wrote an op-ed for it for my college newspaper describing how a lot of people at my Catholic college, Holy Cross in Worcester, Mass, were very adamantly against cloning, and there was some religious reasons for it, and also just concerns that people can clone an army of Hitlers and make these super soldiers. And my op-ed argued at the time was that we those things are fantastical. You can't breed super soldiers that are mean. We don't have the technology for it. You still have to raise them for 20, 30 years. But more importantly, my argument was that we should pursue the technology because it can help with cloning organs, for instance. And we are seeing more headway in that area. So it's interesting how this topic's been around for a long time. But we watched the movie this week, and it's surprising how we have come some ways towards making a society where we can edit out genes. Today, for instance, we can screen embryos for during IVF for genetic diseases like cystic fibrosis and Down syndrome, and it can be also used to find chromosomal abnormalities. And in my AIRX newsletter, I actually had a story about how AI is being used to look at placentas and look at potential signs of infection or other diseases. So that's one thing that we can do or are starting to look at. We can also, see a future where CRISPR or gene editing, for instance, is being used to allow scientists to edit out certain genes. And this is being applied in very small, rare cases like sickle cell anemia or beta thalassemia. There's some like single gene, some conditions that we can edit out for. So you're seeing more of that. And but beyond that, though, there isn't really a widespread push towards genetic engineering. Although I did see on Twitter this week, and this also kind of brought up the topic for me. Someone tweeted out, this guy named Jacob Sansbury tweeted out that having kids in the next 5 years might be a tragic mistake. Every smart bio founder / scientist I've talked to seems to think embryo editing for things like shorter sleep, reduced cancer risk, etc., is possible on a near-term horizon. And he says, imagine having two kids a couple years apart, One is a superhuman and the other isn't. Quote, sorry, Jimmy, little Timmy won't get cancer, only needs 4 hours of sleep, and you're normal. You were just born in the wrong order, end quote. So that post got up 1.3 million views as of like, I don't know, a week ago. I'm sure it's blown up more. A lot of people are debating and pushing back. And, I think this is sort of along the lines of what was said in the Gattaca movie, right? There was two brothers. One was born with superior genes. One wasn't. One was born natural. One wasn't. So, this person thinks that people are seeing this in the near term future. The science is still pretty far away. And it's been a topic that's been discussed again for decades, if not centuries. I mean, you look at Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the overextension of someone trying to build a perfect human and how it goes wrong. And even actually, the first scientific paper on genetic engineering or gene therapy, it came out in 1972, and the title was Gene Therapy for Human Genetic Disease. And what I find fascinating about this paper was, it was very groundbreaking, talking about the potential to make gene therapy, which now is really growing pretty fast now that we've not perfected the technology, but at least found a way to manufacture it in a way that's relatively reproducible in a normal fashion. Um, the abstract of this paper, I'll read a little bit of it because I think it's just so fascinating, from 1972, says that in our view, gene therapy may ameliorate some human genetic diseases in the future. For this reason, we believe research directed at the development of techniques for gene therapy should continue. But this is the key here. For the foreseeable future, however, we oppose any further attempts at gene therapy in human patients because, one, our understanding of such basic processes as gene regulation and gene recombination in human cells is inadequate. Two, our understanding of the details of the relation between the molecular defect and the disease state is rudimentary for essentially all genetic diseases. And three, we have no information on the short range and long range side effects of gene therapy. So even with this scientific breakthrough, researchers were cautioning against pursuing it further. So where does it leave us now? Obviously, there's a lot of questions ethically about how and when we should pursue genetic engineering. Again, for someone with, say, a rare condition or a single gene disease, you can see the benefit of doing that during IVF or other procedures to prevent someone from having a lifelong condition. The broader question comes, what happens if there's already a fertilized egg, and now through genetic testing, you find that in the womb, the baby is likely to have a genetic condition? Obviously, this is a debate that comes up with abortion and Down syndrome. My own daughter is a nonverbal autistic child, teenager actually. And what if there's a test one day that talks about whether a child will have autism? Will that lead to more abortions of autistic people, which is a really tragic pursuit? So anyway, there's a lot of just different ethical and moral questions around this. I think it's interesting. I like looking at the science and thinking about, wow, what can we do for the good of society with this by, again, eliminating chronic conditions or really serious conditions, and what other things can we get from it, whether it's cloning organs or coming up with a better way to, I don't know, treat diseases. But it's just a hot topic. If you haven't watched Gattaca, check it out. Some of the things don't really hold up that well, but some other things do, and it's still pretty, I think, relevant to questions of when and how, or should we even do genetic engineering. Thanks so much.